After all the trials and tribulations that you faced in your life, Al, what inspired you to keep pressing forward? What was the thing that did it the most?
I think the thing that did it the most for me is a sense of purpose. I think that you've got to find out, and for me it was very young, what you feel your reason for life, what is your purpose in life. And I found myself most fulfilled fighting for those causes that I felt was just. And I think that people should, no matter what skills you have, they're not going to be applied right unless you apply it to a purpose. And I found that to be my calling and purpose in life. And I've dealt with other things and ended up right back. When I was very young, I met James Brown, and I went on the road with him for a minute, went right back to civil rights. That was my purpose. You've got to be committed to something.
Here's one on foreign affairs. Is the Arab world under the belief that they are fighting a crusade?
There are some in the Arab world that clearly believe that. And there are some that feel that their Quranic commitment supersedes anything else. There are others that want to build a democratic process. I think that the real question is that the United States must have a balanced approach to the Middle East. We cannot support zealots on either side of the equation. Because yes, there's some that are guided with a Quranic fervor on the Arab side. There's some on the other side that feel that they are chosen of God to do things. We must do what is in the interest of right and the interest of the United States, and that is a balanced approach. And this Islamophobia, one of the things that disturbed me, Chancellor, is when you can look at a poll, 30% of Republicans believe the president is a Muslim. Like there's something wrong with being a Muslim. If you cannot preach freedom of religion and then stigmatize one religion, every religion has had people that misuse it. You've had, yes, Muslims that were terrorists. You've had Christians that were terrorists. You had Klansmen that ran around as terrorists. So are we going to say every Christian is a racist and a terrorist? I think that we've got to stop this imbalanced approach in the Middle East.
How can we encourage black unity if we, black folk, are so quick to jump the gun and point our fingers at other races?
I think that we can't. We've got to stop looking to blame anybody and start dealing with the goals of where we need to go. Because none of this is personal. This is all about, as I said, equal protection under the law, equal opportunity. And the blame game, there are blacks that were never involved in the struggle. There are whites that were involved. Don't forget, even in the 60s, you had whites dying in Alabama to get us to right to vote, while some blacks wouldn't come to the marches. And even today. So it's not a question of black and white, it's a question of right and wrong. And we must always keep that out.
Is the black church an economic entity? And if so, how should we address the feminization of poverty within our families?
I think that black church is definitely an economic institution. If you don't believe that, then you have never given tithes and offerings. The question is, do we use the economic independence and the economic accumulation of power of the black church properly? Let me give you an example. If you got the 50 top black churches in North Carolina and say we're going to all bank at one bank, every Monday morning, we all go to the same bank. But in order for them to be the recipients of those deposits, we want to have an understanding on mortgage relief for our members, business loans for our businesses, leverage it into something. We got too many independent kingdoms rather than a collective economic strategy. We have more power than we use. And that's what I think that we've suffered. And we don't need anybody's permission to do that. We do that ourselves. A lot of folk in here tomorrow will be going to church. Whatever church you go to, go make a deposit Monday morning. We don't get leverage back on that. And I think that we need to do that. In terms of the feminization of poverty, a lot of that is based on the social structures and the social pathology of our families in terms of single-parent homes. But I want to caution that we be careful. To condemn the single-parent home problem in our community is not to beat down the woman. We act like the woman emasculated the man when the man left. If the man left, he shirked his responsibility. Can't no woman run you away from your children. Now you can break up with your wife, but not your children. I grew out of a single parent. This is not nothing new. We've had single parent households as long as we've been here. The question is how we provide what is necessary for families to sustain themselves. But this whole misogyny against our women who stayed and tried to make ends meet is just as wrong as the whole thing against our community. Yes, men need to be able to make a living, but we also need to respect the women that stayed when some of the men didn't.
What is your position about prisoners' voting rights?
I think that if, first of all, if someone has done their time, they should not have to do their time on the street. If you pay your dues to society, how can you then be denied the right to vote? So the law can punish you, but you can't vote on the lawmaker. I think that prisoners should have a right to vote. I think that those that are ex-convicts should have the right to vote. It is a responsible thing to try to bring them back into society rather than to always exclude them from society.
What do you say to a fellow citizen who says that they are not voting? How do we reach out to pull them into the process?
I think that you must explain to them that, first of all, if you don't vote, they're going to have the election anyway. Don't act like you're not voting. It's going to stop anything. So your not voting is really helping the other side vote twice. You can jump up and say, I'm not voting. They will not cancel November 6th because you're not showing up. That means that there's one vote against them that they don't have to worry about. And you are going to live by whatever decisions are made on November 6th. So you cannot participate in the election, but you will not have the option not to participate in the laws made by the elected. If they change the law, you're going to abide by that. So you might as well have a decision. I had a friend of mine that Chancellor was revolutionary, didn't believe in the system, didn't believe in nothing. I don't vote, I don't participate in the system, I don't believe in the system. We riding down the street in Atlanta, Georgia. So I told him, well, why'd you stop at that red light? Just going through the light, you don't believe in the system, boy. So it's not true, we all abide by parts of the system. So we might as well get all the way in it and try to win what we can win in it. Because you're in it whether you like it or not.
Do you know whose idea it was to come up with this campaign slogan, quote, "This election is not about Obama, it's about your mama"?
Yeah, I think I know that guy. I came up with that.
Tell us what you meant by it.
Well, what I meant was, I was speaking somewhere about a year ago, and when I was breaking down the fact that the Ryan budget, and I didn't even know at that time Ryan was going to be on the ticket, was, the Ryan budget was to change Medicare to a voucher program where seniors, not the ones present, but going forward, would have a voucher. You can have $8,000, and if you went above that, you're on your own. So this was not about whether you liked Obama. This is about mothers and grandmothers in the future would be dependent on a voucher system and have to hope their illness was below a certain amount or they were in bad shape. That's why in the middle of the speech I said, it's not about Obama, it's about your mama. Because people act as though this is only about the president. Let me tell you something. If by chance Barack Obama loses, and I personally hope he doesn't, he will go back to Chicago or wherever and build the Obama Library. He'll be fine. The issue is going to be what's going to happen to us. We doing this for us so he can get in there and do something to maintain us. He made him and Michelle and the two girls will be fine. We the ones gonna be in a hell of a problem if we don't look like that.
What is your view on teachers being forbidden to teach our children about our black president because other leaderships oppose this president?
I think that it is to teach children, is to ban children from learning American history. Whether you agree with the politics or the policies of this president or not, you should want every child to know that this country did mature to the point that they could elect a black president after the ugly history of the country. I think you do a disservice to the country not to teach children that things like this can happen.
What are your feelings about President Obama taking a race-neutral position around so many issues and agendas that impact people of color?
I think that the president has taken a public rhetorical position that is neutral. When you look at his policies, there's nothing neutral. If you take health care, blacks are disproportionately the ones affected by pre-existing conditions. Nothing neutral about that. Blacks are the ones, when we fought for Pell Grants, that disproportionately need that. There's nothing neutral about that. Blacks are the ones, black farmers, $1 billion. Nothing neutral about that. I think what the president has been wise enough to understand, that if he gets out there and talks in a way that plays into the right wing, he will not be able to help black people or anybody else. He is the president. It is the job of civil rights leaders to stand up for blacks. The job, like women leaders stand up for women, like labor leaders stand up for labor. He's the president. I remember a guy told me in Chicago, said, well, I just expect him to talk more direct on the issue like Harold Washington. I said, he did not run to be the next Harold Washington. He ran to be George Washington. He's the president. Let him be the president. Let us bring our agenda to him, and I guarantee you he understands it better than anybody that ever sat in that seat and has already done things that impact us. But before you can say, if you got a car going over the cliff, as this country was going over the cliff when he became president, all the industry, banks, all that, before you can say, what are you going to do for the black in the back of the seat, you got to first stop the car from going over the cliff and save everybody and deal with it. He needs another term.
Rather than ask one last question, I'm going to do something a little unique. I want all the students in the audience to stand up. Whether you're a student at FSU or any institution, stand up. Okay, stay standing. Stay standing. Al, for your last comment, I want you to give them their marching orders, not just for this election, but for the future.
I think that what I would encourage you to do while you're young and full of energy is decide on your life's purpose. Decide what you're going to do with your life, and then decide what mark you're going to make, whether it's part of a bigger organization or some individual that is going to affect the times in which you live. And use your time in college to sharpen your skills towards something. I'm leaving here in a couple hours going to Virginia. They say the flight is less than an hour. I'll know in an hour not whether I ride. But if I went to the airport and had no destination, I would never arrive because I wasn't headed anywhere. You can never have an arrival without a destination. Determine where you're going. Figure out, can you afford the fare to get there if you're willing to pay the price. Then realize who you are, show your ID, and the rest is about getting where you're on your way. But you'll never get there until you figure out where that is.
Broncos, attitude check. Al, thank you once again. Ladies and gentlemen, one more hand. Reverend Al Sharpton.